there's a young student, and he goes to his teacher and he says, I'm having a hard time meditating. I'm having a really hard time. I can't focus. Every 2 seconds I'm thinking about this or that. My mind is everywhere. I don't know what to do. What's going on? And his teacher says, it shall pass. And so he goes away and he comes back about a week later and he says, I really still can't meditate, and this time instead of not being able to keep my mind clear, I can't sit still, I'm fidgety, I don't know what to do. I'm really having a hard time with this. And the master says, this too shall pass. And another week or two later, the student comes back to the teacher and says, oh my God, I'm meditating so well. I sit perfectly for hours and hours and hours, and I don't think about anything, and a fly will land on my head and I don't even swat it away, and it's perfect. This is amazing, and I'm reaching ecstasy. And the teacher says, that too shall pass.
Peace of mind is about not having too much anxiety, about basically feeling comfortable with yourself and with the world. I guess in my world I think of happiness as something that comes and goes, whereas peace of mind is more about a sort of state. And so you could have peace of mind and be happy, or you could have peace of mind and be in despair. You could be quite anxious and be happy at the same time, but I think one's more transient and the other's more long-term.
I don't know, being happy is relative. Peace of mind is like something that people I think often they think that to have a peaceful mind you have to not have any thoughts. But I'm not trying to clear my mind, but I'm trying to be unconditionally friendly to the thoughts that I'm having.
When I'm trying to sleep, the entire day just replays in my head. I'm always thinking of everything that's happened, things I said, things I could have said better, just different things like that. So I've been working a lot on not just judging myself for those thoughts, but just accepting them, being okay, and letting it go. And that's what outside does for me, is it clears my mind, allows me just to empty and to be. I think that taking away that time for yourself is bad, and that people do need at least some time alone or some time for themselves, just for themselves, where they're not thinking of every single crazy thing they have to get done. A lot of times people feel like they're lonely even when they're with a big group of people. So I think really just being alone can just honestly be taking time for yourself. That can be just to think, to reflect on the day, to reflect on what's been going on. And I think it's really important to be able to learn that idea of that being alone it's not a bad thing.
Pottery is nice because I'm alone, and I like to do physical things because I don't have to think. I can kind of just feel. You think things and then you kind of leave them at that. I just kind of let the pot make itself, and I don't really try to do anything with it. I mean, I'd make the pot, but I'm not this is gonna be a jar or bowl or cup. It's just kind of whatever it turns out to be. And that's kind of about being centered, is just kind of letting things be as they are, or as they're meant to be, without trying too hard. Not that we have no control over things, but that there's a certain perfection to the way that things ultimately do work out. And I believe that life is easiest and most fun when we kind of go with that, even if it's hard sometimes. Because ultimately that's what is, I think, what's the best thing that can happen, is when we just let things be as they may. you know, I mean, you're literally centering a piece of earth, and it's like really frustrating sometimes. Like this little piece of clay is a little bit off center, but if I get really mad at it, then it'll just keep getting more off center. So you have to kind of like gently hold it without pushing too hard. But you still have to be firm. And now it's on center.
I'm a religious person. I come out of the church, right? And we have this idea of the peace of Christ. And that's a little bit different maybe than peace of mind. But to me, that's a concept of a sort of rightness with the world. It doesn't mean it feels good or that everything's going to be okay, but it's sort of an equanimity in the face of what is. The sort of bigger peace, when I think about peace, it's more about your orientation in the midst of whatever comes. Trivial stuff is a really good, like, anesthetizer. It keeps you busy and from focusing on the stuff you really do need to pay attention to.
Everything can be pretty distracting. I have to do this, and I have to do that, and oh, I'm thinking about this thing.
We're always used to complaining. We're always used to thinking about outstressing each other. Oh, I have this, this, and this to do. Oh, I have so much more than you. I'm working more than you.
We have an epidemic of a lot of things like overworking, overachieving, dissatisfaction. And that's what like consumerism comes from. Never feeling like you have enough, being told we don't have enough.
Maybe there's something else I'm trying not to deal with. You know, if I'm particularly interested in television, then there's probably something going on in my life that I need to pay attention to because I don't really care that much about television.
When it's like I'm surrounded by all those things, then it's harder to remember how to be centered. Being centered just means that you know that you have enough and that you have no need to participate in those epidemics.
Taking that pause to just put your phone away, to not be around people, makes people extremely aware of how their bodies, who they are, how they feel in that moment. I think sometimes people, it's an insecurity just to be very aware.
When I can, I cross-stitch, which is a strange thing to say, but when I was little, I had this spinal condition and I was in a bed for a lot of my youth, and one of the things I learned to do there was to cross-stitch, and so that has become like a form of meditation for me. So often I will spend some time at night, and it's really just about like using your hands and shutting off your brain, and that to me is really important. The benefits of staying centered are, for me, it's like survival, right? That you can get up in the morning and keep doing what you're doing, and you have better relationships with other people when you know what you're about.
I think that way you can be aware of like how you are feeling and be able to confront that and deal with it. So if you're happy or you're sad, just being aware of that emotion instead of suppressing it is really important.
Happiness isn't particularly important to me. I mean, I want to be happy. Doesn't everybody want to be happy? But happiness doesn't seem like a goal to me. I'm here for myself, and I'm here for those around me. Sometimes happiness stands in the way of having real meaning and real purpose in your life. And I would put meaning and purpose as far more important than happiness at any given moment. So if you have a life that's filled with meaning and purpose, happiness will come and happiness will go, but it's sort of a joyful, filled, satisfied life if you have meaning and purpose.
What's the importance of being centered? Because then you can like do the things you really care about and be the person that you want to be. I think that being centered to me just means being the person that you really are.